Hello and welcome to the video. This is a video all about laminating. Now, laminating is adhering a special film that's got heat activated adhesive on the back onto the top of your foam models, and actually lots of different models. You can use the same kind of process for lots of different things, monocoat and everything else. Now, I don't do it a lot, but lots of you have realized that I need to do some laminating in order to get my Black Hawk ready. Now, this isn't the laminate, there's laminate under this. So what I've done on the wing, and I'm going to show you in this video, is I've put laminate on top of the wing, and then on top of that laminate, and you might be able to see the end, there's the laminate underneath, and then on top there's this kind of automotive covering vinyl on the top, which makes the wing pretty bulletproof. Now, I'm making this video for those of you that have never done this before. As I said, I'm not an expert, I don't tend to do it an awful lot, so while I had all the stuff out, I thought, you know what, let's shoot it and explain why you want to do it. You're going to put it on to provide additional strength, resilience, waterproofing, and also it's handy if you're repairing a model, it can also provide extra strength and resilience too. Now, to do this, you don't need a lot of specialised equipment. Obviously, you're going to need a clean area, loads of room to work in, and to give yourself lots of time to do it, particularly if it's going to be your first time. Rushing will just cause mistakes. Now, the roll of laminate that I'm using here, this is the 75 micron stuff. That's what I use pretty much exclusively. And there's a dull side and a shiny side. The dull side is where the heat activated adhesive is. So what you want to do is lay out the piece that you're about to cover, and you need to cut out a piece with the dull side down and make sure that you have an inch or two around the edges. You're going to need some kind of laminating iron. You can get specialist irons like this. These aren't particularly expensive. They're kind of 30, 40 pounds, 40, $50. They're okay. More expensive ones actually tell you the temperature, and that's really handy, because the other thing that I have is a little temperature sensor doodad thing, and you'll see me use that in a minute when I actually adhere the film, because the temperature settings are pretty crucial. The only couple of other things you're going to need are some scissors and a sharp knife to cut and trim the laminate when you've got it into position. Now, you could use a household iron for this, and actually I've seen quite a few people use that and it works quite well, but having the smaller iron means you can get in all the small spaces. So let's talk about how you do it. Lay the laminate over the top of the particular thing that you're interested in and cut around the edges. Leave yourself a good couple of inches margin so you can trim it later on and you can fold it over. Once that's done, then pop your iron on and let it get to about 140, 150 degrees C. I like about 150, which is on the slightly warmer side, just to make sure that I get a really good solid tack. And then run the iron down the middle of the piece, and that will position it and stop it moving. And then what I do is I do what I call tiger stripes, and those are put down the side. Now, the reason I do that is that it adheres the laminate into position, because as the laminate is also being stuck to the model, it's also shrinking slightly, and this means that as you do all the in-between pieces, the laminate won't get any wrinkles in. If you start from one end and move along, or start in the middle and move the way out, unfortunately you'll end up with wrinkles at the end just because the way the laminate's shrinking. If you do it like this, it should look nice and smooth. And then it's a case of turning it round and doing the other side. Once that's done, then I would normally trim the edges to make them nice and neat so that I've got enough laminate to go right over the edge. And while I'm doing that, the iron is warming back up to temperature. Double check the temperature is good. Again, I'm looking for kind of the high 140, 150 degrees C. And then go and do all the edges. Again, starting from the middle, doing tiger stripes and just making sure that it's completely stuck. Now, do make sure that you're not catching the foam. If you catch the foam with the iron, it will damage the foam a little bit. So go up to the edge, but not over the edge. And that's why having a smaller iron like this makes it a lot easier than using a household iron. Now, if you're going to do curves, then use a sharp pair of scissors and put a number of relief cuts in. Once those relief cuts are there, then starting from the back, use the iron to fold it over into position, starting at the back of the wing or back of the model and working forward. That way, any overlaps are not going to catch any air or lift up, or in the event of a landing, fill up with mud and rubbish. Once that's done, turn the wing over, then cut the next piece of laminate and repeat the process exactly the same way. The thing that I do is make sure that the front leading edge in particular has at least 2 lots of laminate on. That will provide a nice solid leading edge. Other pilots I've seen will do things like sink a piece of cord that's been soaked in glue along the leading edge, or put something like a carbon spar for extra strength. I'm not doing that here because this is pretty good quality EPP foam. Once it's all together, then I would normally just put the temperature up on the iron just a little bit and then run over the whole thing to make sure that it's completely stuck down. If you have any little bubbles, then don't worry about that. Just use a little pin, put a couple of holes in them, and then run the iron back over the top, and that will expel the air and activate the adhesive. Now, there are a couple of things that you're going to learn when you start doing this. The first wing will always be a learning experience, so don't do the first ever laminate job that you've ever done, or if you haven't done it for a year or two like I haven't, expect the first one to come out perfectly. It'll take a bit of time. If you can wrap a parcel in brown paper, you can laminate. Couple of top tips. An iron like this will get very warm on the stand. I tend to unplug it in between big operations just so it doesn't get too hot. It can go up 30-40 degrees while it's sat on the iron and soaking, so be careful of that. That's why I personally use this thing, just to make sure that it's never over hot. If it is, then it can be handy to have something like a damp towel or something to kind of cool the iron down before you put it into place. However, that extra heat can be handy for that last go over just to seal everything in. Do make sure you keep the iron moving. As you probably saw there, I wasn't labouring or staying in one place for very long. The longer you stay in one place, the more chance that you've got that you're going to damage the laminate and potentially melt the foam that's underneath. Now, for the Black Hawk product that we're doing here, one of the recommendations is you could heat the iron up to about 170 plus degrees and then run over the very last thing and actually watch the foam go black a little bit. And you can see in this image, this is a little bit of the foam that I tried that on. Personally, I'm not bothered about that. This is going to smooth out the wing for this Black Hawk, and putting the automotive covering on it, you're not really going to see that anyway. So I'm not going to do that last step, but that is an option if you have a wire cut wing like this Black Hawk from E-Wings. Now, you'll be able to spot whether or not your iron is too hot or not. First of all is if you are running it over a regular injection molded wing, you will notice that the surface, if the iron is too hot, will start to look like the skin of a lizard. All of the little individual little round pieces of foam will start to overinflate, and you'll end up with this lizard skin effect. That's usually a sign that your iron's too hot. It's probably going to be in the 170 degrees or hotter. Stop what you're doing, check the temperature of the iron. If it's too hot, then turn it down, let it cool down, and go back to it. I know some people quite like that effect. Personally, that just looks to me like the iron's too hot. Secondly, you can get the iron too cold. If you've been using it for a while, it can cool down. It'll be dumping the heat into the laminate and into the foam, so it might start off at the 140 odd degrees, which I tend to use, and then after you've done one wing, at the end it's kind of 130, and it's not working as well. If you feel that it's not tacking as well, then just put the iron on the stand and let it warm up. When it's back up temperature, do the other half. Don't push it, and don't try and do too much with an iron that's getting too cool. 120 degrees, 130 I would say, in that range you are below what is going to be good for most laminates. And after a wing or two, it'll all start coming back to you and you'll be away. Doing something like the wing on this Black Hawk is a great way to start because there aren't any complex curves. You don't have to do complicated relief cuts and all that kind of gubbins. It's literally just doing one side and the other, and you can trim it and make it look really neat. So hopefully that's been interesting for those of you that were interested in lamination. If it's a project you want to try over the winter months or maybe in lockdown, then I would get yourself some 75 laminate, and then also get yourself a little iron, and it's really straightforward, much easier than you would expect. Lots of people talk about it being quite complicated. If you take your time and follow those tips, you should be able to get the first 1 or 2 wings done without too much drama. Thank you for watching my video and watching right to the very end. If you want to find out what I'm currently working on, you can follow me on social media by searching for Painless360 in the usual places. If you'd like to become part of the inner circle, then you can become a Patreon. Details are in the description and you get lots of additional benefits. Check out the playlist section on the channel too. I organise all of my videos into playlists and it's called something like Introduction to or for Beginners. All of the content is aimed so that you can start at the very beginning and it teaches you that subject, starting with simple principles and moving up to teach you everything you need to know.